Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. The International Monetary Fund revised up South Korea's 2024 growth outlook to 2.5%, supported by stable global economic expansion. So did the Asia Development Bank after considering its robust exports. The price of gold reached a fresh new record high on Tuesday, driven by hopes of Federal Reserve rate cuts this year and a second Trump victory in the U.S. presidential election. A heavy rain alert was issued in the Seoul metropolitan area this morning for the first time this summer. Seoul City is forecast to see up to 120 millimeters of rain until Thursday. This morning, the first heavy rain warning of the year has been issued for the city of Seoul. The Korea Meteorological Administration on Wednesday also sent emergency disaster text messages about heavy rain to the entire capital region for the first time this year. It expects a total of 90 millimeters of rain in 3 hours and 180 millimeters in 12 hours. And over 10 messages are sent to areas in the northern part of Gyeonggi-do province, including Paju, where more than 100 millimeters of rain has poured down this morning. South Korea's economic growth outlook for this year has been revised by the IMF, along with a moderate downgrade for the U.S. and Japan. The Asian Development Bank also raised the country's growth forecast. Our Lee Soo-jin has more.
The International Monetary Fund has upgraded its growth forecast for South Korea's economy this year to 2.5%. The IMF, which publishes its World Economic Outlook in January, April, July, and October each year, on Tuesday raised its growth outlook 0.2 percentage points from the 2.3% forecast made in April. The projection is the same as the Asia Development Bank's supplementary growth forecast released on Wednesday when it revised upward South Korea's economic outlook to 2.5% from its April report of 2.2%. And it's also the same as the Bank of Korea's forecast, but slightly lower than the anticipated growth set by the OECD, the South Korean government, and the Korea Development Institute of 2.6%. The boost in South Korea's growth forecast by both the IMF and the ADB was mostly due to its faster-than-expected growth in the first quarter of 1.3% on the back of robust exports. Exports in June saw on-year growth for the 9th straight month, with shipments of chips, the nation's largest export item, surging more than 50% compared to the previous year. As for other nations, the IMF lowered its growth forecast for the United States by 0.1% to 2.6% this year as the labor market shows increasing signs of cooling. But the growth outlook for China was hiked to 5% from 4.6% due to a rise in China's exports and a recovery in private consumption in the first quarter. Regarding the global outlook for this year, the IMF kept it steady at 3.2% with a slightly stronger growth of 3.3% for 2025. While this year's projection was kept steady, it remains tepid considering how the global economy expanded 3.8% on average before the pandemic.
Near-term risks have become more prominent. These risks may result in higher for even longer interest rates, which in turn increases external, fiscal, and financial risks. Additionally, significant swings in economic policy around election could lead to fiscal slippages and heightened protectionism.
And near-term risks aside, the IMF said that policymakers need to make it their priority to restore price stability and that strengthening multilateral cooperation is essential to addressing global challenges. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Gold price soared on Tuesday to reach a new all-time high amid prospects of a September rate cut and former U.S. President Donald Trump's re-election in November. Now, despite signs of U.S. Fed cutting rates soon, Trump says the central bank shouldn't make such a decision before the presidential election. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The price of gold rose to an all-time high on Tuesday amid rate cut expectations and the prospect of a White House return for former U.S. President Donald Trump. Gold futures for August delivery trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange closed at $2,467.80 per ounce, up 1.6% from the previous trading session to set a fresh all-time high. Soaring gold prices come amid market expectations that the U.S. Federal Reserve will almost certainly cut the benchmark interest rate by September. Gold prices tend to rise when inflation expectations rise or interest rates fall. Analysts also say growing speculation that Donald Trump, who survived an assassination attempt last weekend, would be re-elected is driving up the gold price. The Financial Times pointed out that Trump's tariff and tax cut policies could increase U.S. fiscal deficit and geopolitical tensions, which would boost inflationary pressure and lure investors to safer assets like gold. The Dow Jones also surged during Tuesday's trading session, up 742.76 points, or 1.85% from the previous session, to close at 40,954.48. The index of 30 prominent companies listed on stock exchanges reached back-to-back days of fresh all-time highs, as it marked the largest single-day increase in 13 months. The S&P 500 also jumped 35.98 points, or 0.64% from the previous trading session, closing at another all-time high of 5,667.20. While the positive momentum on Wall Street is mainly centered on rate cut expectations, Trump says rates should not be cut before November's presidential election. During an exclusive interview with Bloomberg released Tuesday, the former president warned the U.S. Fed should abstain from cutting rates and give the economy and his rival, Joe Biden, an election boost. According to Bloomberg, Wall Street expects 2 interest rate cuts before the end of the year, including one before the November election. Trump says it's something the U.S. Fed knows they shouldn't be doing. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Exports of South Korean cosmetics have reached an all-time high in the first half of 2024, breaking a record set in 2021. The Korea Customs Service said on Wednesday that the export value exceeded $4.8 billion, up by over 18% on year. That was mainly due to the growing popularity of K-beauty products in the U.S. The previous all-time high was around $4.6 billion, set 3 years ago. And trading surplus for cosmetics in the first half of this year was nearly $4 billion, which was also a record high. U.S. authorities have apparently increased security for Donald Trump after receiving intelligence that Iran may attempt to assassinate the former U.S. president who was shot during a campaign rally last Saturday. According to CNN on Tuesday, citing multiple officials, security was raised after U.S. authorities received the intel in recent weeks. However, the report added that there is still no indication that the recent shooting by 20-year-old Matthew Crooks at a rally in Pennsylvania was connected to the intel. CNN questioned the security lapses by the Secret Service despite receiving the intelligence weeks prior. Trump's camp did not comment on the security issue, adding all questions should be directed to the Secret Service. And the Secret Service said it had recently increased the number of security personnel and resources following Saturday's assassination attempt. A high-ranking North Korean diplomat based in Cuba is confirmed to have defected to South Korea last year. Now, the news comes as the latest in a series of defections by members of North Korean elite in recent years. Our Kim Jung-sil has the details.
A senior North Korean diplomat based in Cuba defected to the South last November. On Tuesday, the National Intelligence Service said that media reports on the defection of a North Korean counselor of political affairs in Cuba were factual. The NIS gave no further details. A South Korean newspaper, the Joseonilbo, reported early Tuesday that 52-year-old Lee Il-gyu fled to the south with his wife and children. Lee, a leading expert on relations with Cuba, reportedly left around the time South Korea was actively communicating with Cuba ahead of establishing diplomatic ties in February. He told the paper any North Korean resident would think of wanting to live in South Korea at least once, adding that he felt irritation with the North Korean regime, pessimism about the future, and desire to escape these as his motivation for fleeing. Lee's defection made headlines as he is one of the highest-ranking North Korean diplomats made public to have defected in recent years. The acting ambassadors to Italy and Kuwait defected in 2019, while the defection by Tae Young-ho, the former deputy ambassador to the UK in 2016, remains that of the highest-ranked diplomat to come to the South. Pundits say the continued defections of senior North Korean diplomats indicate that members of the elite in the North are becoming increasingly disillusioned with the Kim Jong-un regime. Their situation of being stationed abroad could also make it easier for them to defect. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command spoke to the South Korean media for the first time on the sidelines of the Rim Pacific exercise held in Hawaii, where he also, for the first time, directly recognized Seoul's pursuit of nuclear submarines. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
In his first interview with the South Korean media since taking office in May, Commander Samuel Paparo of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command has emphasized the importance of denuclearization on the Korean peninsula.
The developments in North Korea are very, very concerning to everybody, and we seek the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula at all times. We're equal partners with South Korea. And in the spirit of Washington, we've established a nuclear consultative group. Through the nuclear consultative group, we're in a constant dialogue at very high levels of secrecy to find a strategic way ahead to deal with the issue.
Speaking with Arirang News and 6 other domestic media outlets in Hawaii last Thursday on the sidelines of the Rim of the Pacific maritime exercise, Paparo also responded to questions about the growing calls within South Korea to possess nuclear weapons, including nuclear-powered submarines.
From the standpoint of submarine warfare, I think it's important as allies and partners to find the most efficient and the most effective way as allies and partners to combine our capabilities in ways that most effectively defend our alliances and partnerships. If the operational analysis leads us to believe that, then we can move forward at a later date.
Though the commander did not offer further comments, it was the first time for a top U.S. military commander to directly address Seoul's pursuit of nuclear submarines. Paparo also affirmed that the U.S. forces in South Korea will not be relocated in the event of a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Concerns about a possible relocation have been growing, with China reportedly seeking to build a military capable of doing so by 2027.
Well, we'd have no plans to relocate any of the capability on the Korean peninsula just because of the solidness of our alliance. And any combat plans that we'd have would be global plans to deal with all threats.
The commander also praised South Korea's leadership role in the Indo-Pacific.
You ask about Korea's leadership role in the Indo-Pacific. And I think the ambitions of Korea's leadership says it all. Global, pivotal state. I'll also mention, too, the trilateral with Republic of Korea, Japan, and the United States. And so Republic of Korea is just expressing a tremendous leadership role throughout the Indo-Pacific and, in fact, through the globe.
The commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is responsible for U.S. forces deployed on approximately half of the Earth's surface. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
A legendary b-boy will depart for Paris as the first Korean breakdancing competitor. At almost 40 years old, the breakdancer is determined to put on a spectacular finale in Paris, which might be his last stage as a national representative. Choi Soo-hyung has this story.
Kim Hong-yul, as known as Hong-tan, is a 39-year-old South Korean breakdancer. He will compete in breaking, which became an official sport for the first time at this year's Paris Olympics. He has won the Red Bull BC1 World Final, regarded as a World Championship level competition, 3 times. Last year, at the Asian Games in Hangzhou, he won Korea's first ever silver medal as a world-class b-boy. This year, he made history here by being the only Korean athlete in breaking to qualify for the Paris Olympics.
I want to show the world what the breaking is, especially to those who might not be familiar with this dance, and I hope many people will enjoy it and even try it out themselves. I plan to work hard with that goal in mind. Personally, I feel great about achieving my goal and making it this far.
His signature move is the freeze, a position held without movement for almost 10 seconds. He is also known for his power moves, connecting high-difficulty movements continuously. At this Olympics, he said his strongest competitors were Phil Kim, known as Phil Wizard from Canada, Shigeyuki Nakarai, known as Shigekicks from Japan, and Victor Montalvo, known as Victor from the US. Despite his countless breaking battle experiences, Hong Tan said he feels both excited and nervous about competing in the Olympic stage.
This is Hong Tan, representing Korea in the Paris Olympics. I ask for your support and I'll do my best to achieve great results that meet your expectations. Thank you so much.
Wearing the team uniform adorned with the Korean national flag, the taeguki, Hong Tan already feels a sense of pride and determination as a national representative. His journey to make history is about to begin. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
The recent development of early diagnosis and treatment for breast cancer has produced higher survival rates, but there are still many patients who suffer from side effects after surgery. Domestic researchers have discovered that there are better outcomes in recovery from breast cancer if the patient starts to exercise right after surgery. Cha Yoon-kyung has the story.
South Korean women have a higher rate of contracting breast cancer as opposed to colorectal or thyroid cancers, but early diagnosis has raised the survival rate to 93.8% over 5 years after it is discovered. However, many breast cancer patients suffer from side effects following surgery, such as difficulty in moving the related shoulder in daily life.
Lots of patients think that exercise is good for breast cancer. However, most of them do not know how and when to exercise. We discovered that the movement of shoulders improved with strategic exercise after surgery.
Researchers closely monitored breast cancer patients over 5 years post-surgery, and those who started exercising right after their operation recovered up to 85.7% of their shoulder muscle strength, while those who didn't exercise recovered for only 17.9%. This result shows that it is better for the recovery of shoulder muscle strength of patients if they start exercising sooner.
Patients should gradually exercise from 2 to 3 times a week until they get sweaty. It definitely helps to improve the quality of life if patients exercise consistently.
The researchers noted that rehabilitation outcomes would be good enough if patients continued the exercise at home after learning them. Also, depending on the patient's condition, they can start exercising the day after surgery since there are no side effects. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. We begin today in Thailand, where local police are investigating the deaths of 6 people whose bodies were found on Tuesday in a luxury hotel suite in the country's capital, Bangkok. Police officers at the scene found the bodies of 3 men and 3 women at the Grand Hyatt Hotel after a call from staff at around 5:30 p.m. local time. All of the deceased were Vietnamese nationals, although 2 held dual US-Vietnam citizenship. According to Thailand's Metropolitan Police Chief, 7 people were booked to stay at the hotel, but only 5 checked in. 1 person remains unaccounted for, while one of the dead did not match hotel records. Authorities are investigating whether the cause of death was poisoning, as suspicious substances were detected in drinks. Thailand's Prime Minister, Srettha Thavisin, who visited the scene, said the victims had been dead for 24 hours before being found, adding that the deaths were from a killing and that a motive needed to be found. Investigators say there was no evidence of a robbery or a fight. U.S. Senator for New Jersey, Bob Menendez, has been found guilty of 16 counts related to accepting bribes in exchange for helping foreign governments. A jury on Tuesday convicted the 70-year-old Democratic senator of all 16 criminal charges, including bribery, obstructing justice, and acting as a foreign agent. The former head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee was found to have received gifts, including gold bars worth over $100,000, and FBI agents found some $500,000 of cash in Menendez's home. Prosecutors said that Menendez helped the Egyptian government secure millions of dollars in U.S. aid after receiving the bribes from his business associates. Menendez faces possibly decades in prison. His lawyer has vowed to appeal. Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said in a statement following the verdict that Senator Menendez must now do what is right for his constituents, the Senate, and our country, and resign. A bus crash in Peru's Andes Mountains on Tuesday killed at least 23 people and left 13 injured. According to Peru's Highway Protection Division, the bus carrying more than 40 people was traveling from the capital Lima to Ayacucho at dusk before it skidded off a highway in the Andean Ayacucho region and overturned and plummeted down a 200-meter-long slope. A senior official said the accident took place on the Los Libertadores highway in the south-central Andes and that rescue efforts are continuing. Peru's ground transportation superintendent said an investigation into local bus company Turismo Molina Union SAC had begun. Ahead of Paris 2024, the organizing committee of this year's Olympics have revealed the cardboard beds that will be used by athletes during the Summer Games. The recyclable cardboard beds were presented in Paris on Thursday. They were initially created in 2021 for the Tokyo Olympic Games and have 3 separate blocks, allowing athletes to customize their mattress to suit their bodies. According to Paris 2024, 16,000 cardboard beds have been ordered for the Summer Olympics, which will also be used during the Paralympic Games before being donated to charities. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Gyeonggi-do and parts of Chungcheong-do had a chaotic night with buckets of rain, and concern is on the rise as heavy rain is forecast to lash down on those areas, with more than 200 millimeters in the forecast through tomorrow, and the rest of the central regions could see 120 millimeters of downpours lashing down. So a heavy rain watch has been expanded to more regions, but as the rain tapers off and takes a break in the afternoon, it could be downgraded or lifted. Meanwhile, landslide crisis alerts are at a serious level, the 3rd highest on the 4-tier scale, so please stay safe today. Temperature-wise, the central regions should have highs that are a couple of degrees lower today, topping out at 28 degrees here in Seoul, Daejeon at 29 degrees. But southern provinces should have a hotter afternoon, topping out at 31 degrees Celsius in Gwangju. Monsoon rain in central parts of Korea continues through the weekend, but southern parts will be dealing with intense heat. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.